and I want to talk about your transition from being a gold bug to a Bitcoiner. So, John, could you share your journey from being a gold bug to embracing Bitcoin, and what were the key moments or insights that led you to shift your perspective?
Yeah, for sure. So, just like you said in the intro, I was a proponent of sound money going back actually to the financial crisis. And being a proponent of sound money back then really meant gold, because unless you were one of the first people, on Satoshi's mailing list, you didn't even know what Bitcoin was in 2009 or 2010. And gold obviously has the history of being a monetary asset for thousands of years. So if you were learning about sound money at the time, it was precious metals, and it was, gold and silver primarily. So that's kind of where I came from. I was on a path to, being Peter Schiff and just being totally gold only.
Well, gold's probably going to close at a new record high close today. It's only a few dollars off it now, above 23.70. Gold is rising because the dollar, the euro, the yen, fiat currencies are losing value. Inflation is real. It's here to stay. It's not going anywhere near the Fed's 2% target. We're headed in the wrong direction. We'll probably be in double digits by next year. And eventually, the first digit isn't going to be a 1. Central banks are out in front of this. They're the main buyers. A
Right.
lot of Americans have been foolishly selling their gold to buy these Bitcoin ETFs. There's nothing elegant about losing your money in Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not going up. In fact, Bitcoin peaked 2.5 years ago at about 37 ounces of gold. As we speak now, it's worth less than 27 ounces. That's a 27% decline in 2.5 years. This is a bear
Right.
market. Bitcoin is going much lower than this.
But then, thankfully, I did not fall completely down the Peter Schiff path, and eventually heard of Bitcoin. But like many people, I dismissed it at first for years in my case. So real quick, my path, kind of in a condensed nutshell, is graduated college during the financial crisis in 2009, which is a pretty crazy time to graduate with anything, but definitely with a degree in finance. So I'm graduating, the financial crisis is happening my senior year, banks are going under, they're being bought, real estate's crashing, no one really knows what's going on. Ben Bernanke didn't know what's going on, my teachers didn't, the bank CEOs didn't, the talking heads on Bloomberg and CNBC didn't, Hank Paulson didn't. So I was a 20-year-old kid. I'm not claiming that I knew what was going on, but at least I knew enough to look at these people who I thought were the experts. And I said, wow, they really didn't see this coming. They didn't, see it ahead of time. They're not really diagnosing the problem. And then the response was so crazy that it was like unprecedented, QE, bailouts, TARP, all this stuff. So anyway, I looked at that and I was like, this is a pretty crazy thing to live through. But I don't know if I can trust all these people who I thought were the experts. So I looked into other aspects of economics that I didn't learn in school, basically Austrian economics, and that led me to the gold standard, to sound money. And it all made sense to me. I said, this just makes a lot more sense than what I learned in college. So I became a proponent of sound money. And like I said, that meant gold. I didn't hear of Bitcoin until 2013, but I dismissed because I just said, you know what? People don't even really buy the idea of gold being money. So why are they ever going to buy the magic internet version of gold? So I thought, nice idea. I like sound money, but this Bitcoin thing is not going to be it. Plus, it was also just way too confusing and sketchy to actually acquire some, whether you're going to a sketchy exchange or going to a Bitcoin ATM. There's just so much friction and uncertainty. So 2013, I hear about it, but I totally dismiss it. Wasn't until 2017, which I consider to be like the first mainstream bull run for Bitcoin, when I said, okay, maybe this thing, it's been around since 2013. Maybe it's not dead. Maybe it won't die. So at that point, I started to really dig into it, learn more about it. It was a little bit easier to acquire some. And this whole time, by the way, I'm working for a Wall Street bank. Working at Goldman Sachs. And if you fast forward the story a little bit more, 2020 comes around, and that was kind of like, the COVID monetary bazooka that happened really clued a lot of people in to I think basically the idea that, okay, every time there's a crisis, an economic crisis, financial crisis, is the response really just going to be to borrow, spend, and print a ton of money? Because if it is, then we're essentially just debasing our currency over time. And that clued a lot of people into Bitcoin. The performance of Bitcoin in 2020, 2021, I think it attracted a lot of people. And if you fast forward a little bit more, I got linked up with some people at Swan. I was very impressed with the people and what they were building. And then in early 2022, I said, you know what, maybe it makes sense to actually make the leap from the career of Wall Street to join Swan. And now I've been at Swan for over 2 years. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell.